let's talk about motivation. It can be very hard. Life can be very hard. And, people can seem to be against you. The world could seem to be against you. And it could be a tough place to live. Man, I struggled a lot with depression, over the years and the ups and downs of this music business. Now I'm at a point in my life, and I still, every now and then, I get depressed just like anybody else. But I don't have a choice anymore to bury myself. Back in the day, I would drink too much, sleep it off the next day, and wake up in a worse state of mind. And I don't have that problem anymore. And I'm glad, I'm thankful for that. But the one thing that I learned pretty early on in life, this might be helpful for the young guys out there, and maybe some of us old guys who just need reminding. It seemed like whenever I hit my lowest points, and that could mean, band breaking up, or your girlfriend dumping you, or your family not being supportive of what you're doing, or any number of things. Whenever I hit my lowest point, that's when I figured out, I thought about it, and I got motivated to try something, to do something. Being out in California and thinking I was, going to settle down at a young age and get married, and purchasing a ring, and thinking I'm going to propose to this girl and all that. And then the slap in the face of, well, you don't make enough money. My mother says you don't have enough ambition. That was a low point, man. That was a tough thing because, I had strong feelings at that time. But you know what it forced me to do? It forced me to take a look at my life and change. And change can be hard to do when you're very successful. Change can be hard to do when you've got plenty of money. Now, I know a lot of people think that, you got parents that give you money and stuff like that. For me, largely, I was on my own. I was on my own at a very early age, and it was kind of, nothing was going to be easy. Things could have been made easier. But, I chose the path of most resistance, playing music. And, I could have had a lot easier life if I had stayed in school, graduated, gotten a good job, done all these things that normal people do, right? Normal people do. But I had a desire to play music. I had a desire to play guitar. I had a desire to perform. And that's what I wanted to do. And I wouldn't accept anything else. And so, leaving college, going out to Los Angeles, getting distracted out there by a girl, which I just told you about. Getting distracted while I was working a job. I was making like $10 an hour, dating this girl. And I thought, oh, what's, the next step? And she was, get me a ring. And then the slap in the face of, nope, you're not good enough for me. That forced me to realize, wait a minute, I'm out here working in this pawn shop and dating this girl, but I came out here to play music. So I rose out of my lowest point, and I changed, and I got up, and I thought, I came here to play music, and these guitars are just sitting in a corner gathering dust while I'm working a day job and going out at night paying for somebody's dinner and drinks. And I realized, man, I got to do something. And so that's when I looked through the local magazine on the Sunset Strip, and found a band that I could play with and found a position that would work for me. But it took me getting to that lowest point And I started to realize, man, you need the highs in life as much as you need the lows. But the lows were the most valuable points. If I'd had everything handed to me and, everything paid for and do that, I wouldn't have amounted to anything. I wouldn't have done anything. And that's something that, look, not everybody has the motivation to rise above their circumstances. I get that. I get some people just continue to have a terrible time. But if you are one of those people, I'm telling you right now, this is your time. This is your chance to rise above your situation. You can do it. You really can. But you've got to figure out a way. And desperation and hunger can make you work really hard to find a way out of your situation. But you've got to do it. You've got to change. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. Because if you don't, you could find yourself on the street. You could find yourself, with no food, with no clothing, no shelter, no friends, no family. Our families, our friends, they're pulling for us, but they can only do so much. It is ultimately up to you to make changes, to do things, to make your situation better. Back in my day, we didn't have computers. So I'd have my phone book, and I'd have my pen and my piece of paper, and I would make a list. Okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to call these 3 or 4 people. Tomorrow morning I'm going to get a copy of, the local, music connection. Tomorrow morning I'm going to go visit a club and see if they'll book me. Tomorrow morning I'm going to, get some exercise and keep myself motivated and do, the right thing. And that next day I would get up and I would do each thing and I would check through the list. And yeah, it was hard calling, people that maybe they were cold calls, or maybe they were old friends that I needed to reconnect with and find, see if they could help me in some way. Going down and getting that magazine and scouring through those ads and making some calls and, driving down to a club that I'd played before and saying, hey, I'm back in town. Can you, and finding a situation. And, every time that I made positive effort, every time that I tried to, okay, I'm my back is up against the wall here. Every time I tried and made an effort, things would change. And, I could say this, look, being a Nashville musician, we lived and died by our calendar. Now, my friend Roy Vogt, who watches this channel, and he's an educator and a brilliant bass player, he said, man, he said, I was lucky, he got his teaching degree and, he was able to start teaching music, and that kept him from relying on his calendar. And what do I mean by relying on your calendar? For years, even up until this last few months in Nashville, I kept a calendar. And each month, I would write in the dates that I played. And as the work came in, you could start to see, okay, this month is going to be really good. This month is okay, but it'll get better. Oh man. 2-3 months ahead, it's not looking too good. It's not looking too good. Now, I knew in Nashville back in the day, in doing corporate work and wedding work, that kind of work, January and February were going to be a vast wasteland of nothing. But generally, November, December would be pretty good. December used to be really good as far as corporate Christmas parties. And, it used to be one of the best months of the year for that. Now, that seemed to kind of tail off with the economy. I remember one year, it was a little bit light. Our schedule was a little light. And we played this one. It was, I believe, a Vanderbilt Christmas party or something. It was a party for doctors or something. And they said, they came over to our table on a break. He says, "You guys don't know how close this came to being canceled. But we're really thankful that you're here and we're here and we're able to have this party." And I was like, yes, thank you. Please, thank you for not canceling. And thank you for having us. Because literally, I lived and died by my calendar. And so, when you do that, you start to notice, patterns. Okay, Saturday's kind of the big money night. Saturday's the night where you make the most money. And I would try to get every single one of those filled up. And a lot of my years in Nashville, rent or mortgage would be pretty low. So, realistically, on a good Saturday night, I could make almost my rent, but, not always. But, I would start to look and go, okay, Saturday's pretty good. Then I would try and find, like a regular gig, like on a Wednesday, like for a lot of years, when the Wooten brothers would go on the road or Reggie Wooten would go on the road, I would fill in for him at 3rd and Lindsley, which was where their weekly spot used to be. And they would play every Wednesday. And I started hearing Reggie was going to go on the road. And so I reached out to, the guy that was going to be leading it and continuing the gig while he was out of town, so that everybody in the band could still play. Rudy Wooten would still be there, the sax player. And so, he would be the representation of the brothers, and I would get called to go play there. But I made sure when I heard that Reggie was going out of town, I said, "Hey, man, we played all this stuff together growing up, and I'd love to fill in for you." And he said, "Well, Rock's going to be in charge. Give Rock a call." And Rock Williams was the sax player that played with the Wooten brothers down there for many, many years. And he was a great guy. He's still around, but he's retired from playing. And I got on Rock's call list. Rock would, call me for private parties and events down at Opryland Hotel and all this kind of stuff. And I would almost be his go-to guy because he knew I could cover some of the stuff that some of the other R&B guys couldn't do. I could just step up and fill in and do, "Hey, can you do some Jimmy Buffett or something?" We'd get in strange situations where, I would say, "Okay, I'll lead you guys through some of these tunes." And, he was a great, great guy, and he used to call me a lot. So that would be a way I could fill in some Wednesdays on the calendar. And then, maybe somebody would have a showcase or something, or, maybe there'd be an original project I could work on. Okay, on Mondays, I'm going to meet with this songwriter, and we're gonna write, and eventually this stuff is going to end up on a record that they're doing, and I'm going to play on the record. So I'm going to sit with them and work out parts and write songs on Monday. Okay, so then we've got Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Okay, so now I need to find some Thursday, Friday work. So then I would, I had Bourbon Street Blues and Boogie Bar that had a band called Moderately Sauced, and it was a cover band. But we would play a lot down there at Bourbon Street. So I would try to book, okay. And if they had a Tuesday, I'd be like, "Man, I'll do your Tuesday. I'll strip the band down to 3 or 4 pieces. And we'll do your Tuesday with a 4-piece. And then if you book us on Friday night, we'll come down there and we'll have a 7 or 8 piece band. And so that's kind of a way that I would fill out the calendar. But as time went on, different things come and go. The Bourbon Street gig, it got to a point, where my band wasn't getting booked anymore. And so, okay, that fell by the wayside. And then I'd get a call, hey, this road gig needs a guitar player or whatever. And I go, okay. So I'd go out for a while and I'd do that. And I'd do that for as long as I could. And sometimes one of those gigs that I did was fly dates. So I was home most of the week. So, that's when I would do my weekday gigs, my Wednesday sub for the Wooten Brothers and working on, songs and stuff on Mondays and stuff like that, or working with a young artist and making a few bucks doing that. And so that would fill up my calendar that way. And then when the road gig would end, or I'd bounce to another road gig, that would take over more of my time as I took on different road gigs. Some of those would become so demanding that I didn't have to worry about my calendar. When you're doing a road gig, most of those guys have to work a lot in order to keep their calendar filled up, because let's face it, they're living and dying by their calendar as well. An artist that is big enough to go on the road, they've got to squeeze in as many dates as they can as well. So when you're in a situation like that, you're pretty good. You also could find yourself in a situation with a band that works a lot. And, I know there's some bands around here in Florida that just get booked a lot, and they're playing, from this place to another. And, that's one way to fill out your calendar. But I know some guys that they are playing in a band that works a lot, and they still take other gigs. Now, I would recommend to a young player, somebody that's moving to Nashville, don't rely on one band leader. For one, what if the guy gets sick? What if he freaks out? What if he leaves town? You don't want all your eggs in one basket. So my thing was, I would try to have, at least, 2 people that you're your first call for them. And, and treat them like if they're making you first call, then you give them first priority. Say, hey man, before I take a bunch of gigs, do we have anything coming up? I want to make sure I've got everything on the calendar. So you can double check with them. And if they say, man, I don't have anything right now, so okay, well, I've got some offers in. I'm gonna take these gigs for a little while, and you let me know when you need me, and I'll be there for you. But you really kind of needed, for my time in Nashville, I needed about 4 different band leaders to have me kind of in their rotation. And that would give me enough work to kind of keep afloat. And of course, it helped that Nashville was not an expensive place to live. It helped greatly that I had places that, I would have, $300, $350 a month rent and stuff like that. Or my first house, the mortgage was like $650. I thought that was a lot at the time, but now I think there's not a person out there that wouldn't wish to have an inexpensive mortgage like that. But that is how you fill out your calendar. You get first call status with a couple of band leaders that work a lot. And then you have, 3 or 4 others that, use you as a sub so that you can fill in on some of their stuff, and that they're calling you and they're reaching out and they're maybe sending you their calendar and say, hey man, I've got all these dates. I'd like you to have you on some. Can you tell me which ones you're available? Always get back to these people super fast. Always, don't ever let somebody send you a gig offer and you just look at the text and go about your business. Even if you're a busy road player, these people need to hear back from you very quickly, because if not, they've got to find somebody else. Even if you're too tired to pick up your phone, pick up the phone and tell them, hey man, I'm out on the road right now, but I'll let you know when I get back. And man, thank you so much. Always thank these people for reaching out to you. Always make them feel good about doing that. Don't ever take anything for granted. Always be polite. Always be positive. If they call you up, be friendly on the phone. These are seem like obvious things to say, but your demeanor means a lot. And when you're trying to fill out your calendar, you need every single thing you can to help do that. So, when you hit your lowest point in life, know that you can turn things around. You can make things better. And you can pull yourself out of that funk and get back on that stage.